Okay, hi everyone. This speech is actually a bit of a joke, trying to make and touch actually a serious point. You know, nowadays AI is everywhere, and also it's quite strange that everybody thinks that AI is taking our job. So I'm doing this talk to let you understand that actually AI is just changing the way how we work, but humans are still needed, and AI will never take the creativity and all the visions that a human can have. So as you can see, the title is a bit provocative, and it's Claude killed my job, and I've never been busier. Because actually, if we made the work for free, why we can't stop working? Let's start with a little intro about myself. Let's see if this works. Okay, so without trying to be so much egocentric, I am Gianluca Di Bella. I'm the founder of this event, one of the co-founder, and I'm also founder and CEO of Mood Studio. We are a nerds dev studio that basically can build anything. And you know, we are full of designers, full of developers. We work with the Italian Space Agency, banks, you know, different type of stuff. And as you can understand, as a developer, AI is in my workflow every day. So, you know, AI is actually out from a few years, but you have to understand that I never work like that. Like, you know, my day is just busy more every day, just because AI give us the permission to work more. So that's the real topic that I want to touch, right? That the AI just give the opportunity to work more, because normal stuff can be automated without caring about boring and continuous tasks. We can focus on management, we can focus on different type of stuff that before could take us a lot of time. So, you know, this is basically the last 2 years of our life. Every day I wake up, I open Instagram, I open X, internet has already buried us, literally. Our devs dead, let's prepare for an AI jobs apocalypse. Let's the vibe trap. Software developers are not working anymore. So basically, you know, it's kind of like, you know, really complicated for people, because imagine like a guy that is in university at 18 years old and is studying. It's like, why should I be motivated to work or to study if the AI can do everything for me? But the real stuff is actually that we need to change mindset, because we still need to study, we still need to understand how actually the life works and all the economy around us, trying to use this AI as a tool. So let's go a little bit to understand the data of this AI implementation. Let's see if actually it's changing in terms of the labor market that we have around. So let's see in terms of data what actually is happening. So I think that everybody use at least once a day ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever. But if we see the data, and I took those data from Statista, from different platforms that we can find online, and you have to think that just 23% of the people in Europe, so these are database in Europe, just 23% use AI. You have to think that Instagram is used from 70% of the European population. So there is like a crazy gap still. So we think that everybody uses AI, but actually this is not true. While actually from the side of the B2B, from the corporate side, the growth and adoption of AI is way faster, because already the 86% of companies expect that by 2030 all their employees will use AI. Of course, an entry-level position is really exposed to that, because let's imagine that, you know, I'm a CEO of a company and I have to hire a new developer. Now I can hire a senior developer without actually spending so much money in terms of salary, because they can work less thanks to AI. But for entry-level position, this is quite different, because interns are the real problem of this supply chain of the workflow. Because nowadays, entry-level positions are more exposed, because what an intern can do can be easily done from an AI. So it's a bit like where actually the supply chain of the workflow is touching. What is the main issue in the workflow here? So actually, like, okay, AI is amazing, right? So what is my point here? AI is amazing. It's really productive. We can express so many stuff using it. But the problem that almost nobody is talking about the bill. AI is really expensive. Like, of course, if you use ChatGPT to make a document or a presentation, it's quite cheap because you prompt one time and you have done it. But if you're actually a big company and want to implement AI for all your workflow and for all the stuff that normally, let's say, compliance check, audits, fully development chain, it's really complicated. For example, in my company, last month, we paid 3,000 euro of tokens. But I can hire a developer for the same amount of money. So the thing is that, okay, we can use AI, but we need always human support. Because human plus AI is a really shift in the labor market. Just AI can never substitute the human chain. And actually, like, this is quite funny, because in just like 2 years, because there is a big difference between ChatGPT and AI agentic, right? Because agentic coding, it's like every time you use Claude Code, every prompt you're spending like, let's say, even 20 cents. And imagine like this ratio of computation for large corporations. So basically, like, just 26% of companies fully understand their AI spending. So they are in a discovery phase. They try to understand if AI can actually help them or not. So this is really a test that we are living right now. And of course, like, you can see a little chart of how the spending on VI is growing. And this will be more and more and more over here, of course. Let's see the Uber case. Everybody know Uber because it's, I mean, a renting company. I mean, I live in Amsterdam, so you can imagine how many times we use it. Here in Naples, a bit different. But, Uber actually assigned a budget of around 4 billion for 2026 for AI spending. In just the first 6 months, now we are in June, they already spent almost all the budget. And they said, okay, I'm not going to use AI anymore because it's so much expensive. So, like, the real point is actually to understand where we can use AI. Because I think there was a bit of AI washing, I would like to call like that all the companies and all the people say, okay, I can do everything with AI, so let's use it. But in the end of the day, there are some tasks that you don't require AI, that is so expensive, that is better to use normal labor ways of working, right? And that's, there are so many cases from Uber. There is a nice article on Reuters that you can check about it. And it's quite funny because the Microsoft CEO, you have to think that, all these companies, American markets are quite funny. Because, oh, sorry, yeah. I'm sorry for that. I'm also organizer of this event, so it's quite busy. Yeah, basically, like I was saying that, back in the days, Microsoft invested in OpenAI, right? And then they invested also in Claude, even if the first investor in Anthropic was Amazon. And they said, okay, let's try to use both. So they use OpenAI and Codex for so many computational tasks, while they use more Cloud Code for management-related tasks. And basically, last month, the biggest company in the world, Microsoft, that should support AI, canceled all the Cloud Code subscription for all the employees. They said, let's not use Cloud Code anymore. Let's come back to code in a normal way. Let's use it just in the inception of the coding supply chain, not for everything. So what does that mean? If as a company of a size of Microsoft start to cancel Cloud Code internally, is that, it's not that the AI is not good, that the tool didn't fail. It's actually got fired because it's too good. We cannot like accelerate too much the supply chain work. We need to be cautious into that. And that's why we saw now that US government this morning stopped to use Mythos 5, stopped to use Fable 5. And also like Anthropic last week, supported by the Pope, and in this stage at 5 p.m. we're doing a panel about that, about AI ethics. It's basically that they said, guys, let's stop. Because if you work in this sector, you know it. Every week there is a new model. Every week there is a new news. It's so fast that it's impossible to track, even for the people that are working in this industry. It's just impossible. Like me, I'm a developer, and every week there is a new model. There is a new stuff to try. And even for them, it's complicated to take track. So, okay, let's embrace it. But if there is no point, we don't understand how we embrace it, let's not continue the research. For example, the main problem about that is the generative AI flow. Because nowadays, cloud code engineers are using AI to regenerate the code itself. So what does that mean? AI is being coded from itself. Like Cloud Code 2 years ago, they were coding all of them. Now, the majority of the software and the platform from Cloud Code is built from AI. So we are entering this phenomenon, if you're interested, is called the Homer loop, as Homer Simpson. And it's basically like this Homer loop is something that AI is continually generated itself. And if we don't stop that, it's quite dangerous, right? Because we saw with Mythos 5, the president of the European Commission, Lagarde, called all the European banks, Santander, Sella, Intesa, and all the, UBS, all the top European banks, and said, guys, let's stop it, because if Mythos 5 is out, our security is not ready. The level of security that we have, thanks to the law and thanks to all other stuff, is not ready for this AI adoption. So I'm really scary because if we arrive to the point that AI is generating itself, there is no point to stop it. So that's why, and remember this word, mark my words, in the next months, we are seeing a stop of it. We are seeing a stop of the evolution of the AI. So we say, okay, we have Opus 4.8, we have Mythos 5, let's use it, let's understand how we can implement it without going and to accelerate every model every week. Because it was a race, right? It was like, okay, let's create the best model, let's compete, because that's capitalism. We saw every week ChatGPT 5.5, Claude 4.8, Gemini 3.3. Every week there is a new model. But it's more like researching on a new model instead of researching how to implement in our actual life this model. So I'm really scary about one thing about that just I thought about, is that, if US is stopping, because Western society care about diplomacy, democracy, and blah, blah, blah. If China doesn't stop, that's a problem. Because if you see this race and to accelerate the AI development, is because US needs to, and Western society in general, needs to dominate against China. And they have way better electric grid, they have way better computational scale than us. So if we stop to actually understand how to implement AI, might be dangerous because China, in general, a Chinese company can actually have a better model than us. So it's really complicated. What we should do? We should actually stop to try to understand how to implement AI, or we should continue to accelerate development and the research to always compete against China. And this is called the Jevons paradox, that actually was said from Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, back in the days in 2025. It's one you cannot control anymore the machine. So yeah, I'm like radical optimistic in that sense. So I'm really positive about the development and our future. But one thing that I'm scared is is this competition actually healthy or not? So yeah, I'm really curious about the role of the government here, about the role of the church, how they actually can stop and understand how the AI ethics can work around us. And so you can see a little bit of other data about how actually AI is being implemented. And you can see that basically there is no real point, because on the left we saw a chart that distributions of implementation was really fast, right, recently. But also the real the training of employees was lower. So we had a crazy implementation, but the real training in the employees in the work chain was lower. So there is not a real implementation. For example, if I'm a software house, of course I'm using AI. But if you talk with big companies, they are still not using. For example, all the American companies that have Microsoft Teams, that I personally hate, they use Copilot by law, because for private data you cannot put company data on Claude or ChatGPT. So you have to use Copilot. That Copilot is not so great, right? There is also obvious slope. So what does that mean? That innovation goes crazy, every model, every new week, but real implementation is not happening. That's quite a paradox, right? And then, like, in my opinion, like, everybody's saying, okay, AI is stealing my job, we are dead and so on. But actually, like, I think that just the labor market shifted, Nothing is actually died, just something moved, So basically, like, before we were like typing, writing emails, writing essays and so on. And so I think that like the tasks that were really human-based, as typing, pixel pushing, drafting are completely dead, right? But now there is like a lot about human taste. So judgment, taste, accountability, that's something that the AI cannot do, right? And so basically, like, I like to say this also to all my partners and friends, that actually clients stopped paying us to write code, but they pay us to decide which code to write. So the human rule is more like as advisor, as a strategy than just like a slave that needs to code there for people. So like, I really see the AI implementation as like a new industrial revolution. That's actually like, I love blockchain, I love like, innovation in general, but I think that the AI is a different stuff. It's like, it's literally, we can compare it to the first fire or to the steam or like to the electricity. So I feel lucky, like every day I wake up and I'm like, my God, what a beautiful life we can live, because we can do everything. Like there is no limits, like literally with the AI, we don't have limits anymore. So, like I can compare this scale from, we went from the steam to the electricity to the computer, and now we have AI. So let's say, as the usual example of like from papers to emails and so on. In terms of like, let's say finance, ATMs didn't kill bank tellers, right? They just changed it. Spreadsheets didn't kill accountants, they just moved them up. So I think that just we are living a new evolution. But not just like in terms of technology. As a human race, we are evolving, We are becoming smarter and smarter thanks to the AI. And, like actually, 3 reasons why we can stop as a society. Demand exploded, and even like as a business, as a software house, I can say like, we never worked like that. Because if a company had an issue to implement something, now they can write AI, and they can have a clear way to do that. If you are a normal dev, with AI, you're a senior dev, right? So demand exploded. Every business that couldn't do afford software now can. Ambition inflated. For example, like we used to ship one product for 1 month. Now we can actually ship so many products for 1 month, right? So the work is a bit like, it's quite invisible. So, it's a bit like, as again, mainly advisory. We don't write the code, but we decide and we review it. So this is my favorite slide. It's basically like actually understand how new jobs are being born, right? Like it's basically a new shift. And I think that now we should build things for AI. Like before we were building a website for humans, and we were building like marketplace for AI. But we need to understand that we are not alone anymore. There is another type of, I don't know, creator, how can I say, that actually is living the web world with us, If you see Twitter users, 40% are AI agents. Nowadays, Meta just got fined from the European Commission because 30% of users were bots. So, of course, without control, we are completely fucked up because it's, what is the point to have a social network for agents? Actually, it's also out there. But the point is just that we need to coexist and we need to co-live with agents. And that's the new evolution that is happening around us. So, this is so funny because without AI, you can be basically like, we have a junior position, middle position, and seniors. With AI, if you're a junior, you can become a normal dev. If you're a middle dev, you can become a senior dev. If you're a senior, you can become like a CEO or something, right? So the level of intelligence of general people just got crazy high, It just hikes up. And that's the power that we need to use. It's a tool that permits us to do everything. That's it. There are no limits anymore. And, let's be a little bit, positive also, because everybody say, there are no job position anymore, there are cuts and so on. And that was true, because when ChatGPT was out in 2022, 2023, all the companies were stopping to hire. What's happening now? They start to hire again, because they realize that they cannot do everything with the AI agents. So for young generations, let's continue to go to university, let's continue to study, because we still need humans, It's not true, because we can see it, there are literally World Economic Forum data of last month, and also on last meeting in Davis, it's just that the Future of Jobs report, there are 78 million new job opportunities. They are creating new jobs, That's just a shift in the labor market. Nothing died, it's just a shift. So just to understand how, in my opinion, the mentality should work here, we need to stop to competing with the machine. So we don't have to be jealous against them that they can do better things than us. But we need to start to direct it, And we need to start from the low. We need to start from the school, from the high schools, Instead of having we are in a church, for all the respect in the religion, instead of having the religion hour in your school, you should have also the EI, the EI hour, You should do coding class. People should code, because before the nerds were seeing as these guys that were in the black room coding and whatever. But now with AI, everybody can code. So there is this shift of paradigm that the coding should be a general subject that everybody should understand. So, I'm quite optimistic, of course, but my message that I want pass to you is actually that, there is not unemployment, there is a promotion for the human, We should be glad of what is happening, because there are no limits anymore. So, I don't want to continue so much, because of course I want to leave the space to other speakers and continue with our agenda. And if you are curious to make any questions, you can come to me. I think that almost of you know me, so it's quite easy to discuss about those topics. But before that you go, actually sit with this question, If the machine does the work, what are actually paid for the work that we are doing now, If your EI bill is becoming a salary line, who owns the budget, right? What is happening in terms of cost? So have a look on those questions and actually repeat them yourself every day. How can I use EI, But still as a tool, not as a substitute. So thank you very much. That's my QR code if you want to talk with me. And enjoy the event, of course. I hope that was not so boring. I tried to be a little bit satiric on that sense. So if you want to discuss and how we can implement AI in general, how we can nerd on top AI implementation, you can scan the QR code and we can meet later in the aperitif in the agenda. Thank you so much.